The room was already drunk when she stood up. Crystal glasses clinked. Laughter slid across the table like oil. Someone dimmed the lights for a joke that wasn't funny yet. My stepdaughter tapped her fork against her glass. Once, twice. Silence. Obeyed her faster than it ever obeyed me. She smiled. Wide, careless, practiced. The kind of smile you wear when you know you're untouchable. A toast, she said. I didn't look at her. I was watching the condensation trail down my glass, counting seconds, breathing slow, contained. To the loser, she continued, lifting her wine, who signs the checks, but will never be my real dad. Laughter, sharp, uncomfortable. Some people looked at their plates. Others watched me like they were waiting for a reaction. An explosion they could gossip about later. I didn't move. 17 years. 17 birthdays I planned. 17 school runs. 17 nights sitting on cold floors outside hospital rooms, praying over kids who shared my roof but not my blood. I felt nothing on my face. Inside, something ancient cracked its knuckles. I reached into my pocket, placed a small brass key on the table. No speech, no anger, just the key, and a folded note beneath it. Her grandfather noticed first. He'd been mid-sip, when his eyes dropped. Red. Froze. The color drained from his face, so fast it scared me. "Sarah," he whispered, voice shaking. "Tell me you didn't—" The rest of his sentence never made it out. That was when I finally looked up and smiled. For years, I'd told myself love was louder than biology. That presence outweighed DNA, that if I showed up enough, I'd earn a place no blood could erase. That was the lie I needed to survive. The truth had been quieter, hidden in offhand comments, in jokes that cut too precisely, in the way my wife never corrected them when they said, "real dad." She used to say, "They're just kids." Kids don't rehearse contempt, adults do. I remembered moments differently now. Her sudden defensiveness whenever money came up. The way her father, my wife's ex, never really stayed gone. How the kids mirrored his expressions without realizing it. I hadn't confronted anyone. I'd watched. I'd listened. I'd learned that betrayal doesn't announce itself. It leaks, slowly, through tone, through omission, through the way people assume you won't notice. Because you're too busy providing. The toast wasn't the beginning. It was permission. As Sarah sat back down, satisfied, my wife finally met my eyes. There was panic there. Real panic. The kind that comes when someone realizes a script has changed and they don't know. The new lines, "What's that?" she asked, nodding at the key. I took a sip of my drink, calm, measured. "A door," I said. Her father stood abruptly, chair scraping loud against the floor. He grabbed the note with trembling hands, rereading it like maybe the words would rearrange themselves. They didn't. Because once you see the truth, you can't unsee it. And I had seen everything. My wife's fingers tightened around her napkin. Too tight. I recognized that tension. I'd seen it before years ago, when she lied to my face and trusted my love to cover the gaps. "Explain," she said softly. Too softly. A warning disguised as a request. I didn't. I watched her father lower himself back into his chair like gravity had doubled. His eyes stayed locked on the key. Not me, not his granddaughter. The key wasn't symbolic. It was literal. 17 years ago, when the kids were still small and the house still smelled like fresh paint and promises, he'd come to me quietly. Man to man. He'd slid documents across the table and said, "If anything ever goes wrong, if the truth comes out the wrong way, this opens a safe deposit box. Only you should decide when." Back then, I'd laughed it off. Thought it was paranoia. Old men protecting old sins. I'd never opened the box. Not until 3 months ago. That was when Sarah called me by my first name instead of Dad. For the first time. Cold. Deliberate. Like she'd been practicing it. Something inside me finally stopped defending everyone else. The box had been waiting. Inside, hospital records, dates, signatures. A DNA test conducted quietly. Years ago, after a business trip that hadn't been business at all. Proof that my wife's ex, her constant ghost, wasn't an ex. He was a recurring mistake. The children weren't confused. They'd been informed. Rewarded with silence and resentment carefully aimed at me. I funded their lives. He funded their contempt. I never raised my voice as the realization settled over the table like smoke. Sarah laughed nervously. Is this some kind of joke? Her grandfather didn't answer. Because he knew. He knew the account attached to that key held college funds, trusts, property deeds. Everything I'd placed there slowly, methodically, believing I was securing a future I belonged in. I wasn't. My wife reached for my arm. I pulled away. That movement hurt her more than any words ever could. You knew? I asked her quietly. She opened her mouth. Closed it. That was enough. I stood. The room felt smaller now, like it was shrinking around the truth. I'm not your real dad, I said calmly, meeting Sarah's eyes. You're right. Her smirk twitched. But I was your real shield, I continued. And you just stepped out from behind it. Silence. Pure. Absolute. I slid the key closer to her grandfather. You'll decide how they move forward, I said. Without me? I picked up my coat. No shouting. No threats. Just the sound of a man, removing himself from a lie that had fed too long on his loyalty. At the door, I paused. Enjoy the toast, I said softly. It's the last thing I'm paying for. I didn't look back. The night air felt cleaner than it should have. Cold, sharp, honest. I stood by my car for a long moment, keys in hand, listening to the muffled chaos leaking from the house behind me, voices raised. Glass clinking again, but this time not in celebration, in panic. I didn't feel victorious. I felt finished. For years, I'd imagined what revenge might look like. Screaming, slamming doors, watching faces crumble under the weight of what they'd done to me. This was better, because nothing terrifies people more than realizing the man they underestimated was never emotional, only patient. I drove without music, let my thoughts speak. I thought about the first time Sarah called me Dad. How proud I'd been. How I'd framed that crayon drawing like it was proof I mattered. I thought about how love, when weaponized, turns into entitlement. How they'd mistaken my silence for stupidity. My consistency for weakness. They never saw me as a man with limits. Just a resource. By morning, lawyers would be involved. Stories would be rewritten. Blame redistributed. They'd tell themselves I was cruel, petty, vindictive. That was fine. People rewrite history when the truth makes them ugly. The funds were frozen. The properties reassigned. Everything legally airtight, set up years ago, advised by professionals who never asked why a man wanted exit plans so meticulously prepared. They only asked when. I checked into a hotel under my own name. For the first time in 17 years, no one needed anything from me. No fees. No emergencies. No fake affection. Just silence. And in that silence, something unexpected happened. The anger didn't grow. It dissolved. Because closure doesn't come from watching others suffer. It comes from choosing yourself without apology. My phone buzzed once. Then again. Then stopped. I didn't check. Some relationships don't deserve final words. They deserve absence. I lay back on the bed, staring at the ceiling, feeling lighter than I had in decades. Not happy. Clear. They'd remember me as the man who left. I'd remember myself as the man who finally stayed, with his dignity, and that was enough.